You know what's strange? We talk endlessly about boomers and millennials. We dissect Gen Z like they're some fascinating new species. But there's this entire generation sitting quietly in the middle. Generation X. Born roughly between 1965 and 1980. They're your older coworkers who never complain. Your parents who seem oddly detached sometimes. The people who helped build the internet, but don't post about their breakfast. And here's what nobody really talks about. Their psychology might be the most misunderstood of any living generation. Gen X was the first generation to grow up on a massive scale as latchkey kids. Picture this. It's the late 1970s. You're 8 years old. You walk into an empty house after school. Both parents are working. No phones, no cameras, no way for anyone to check in. You make your own snack, do your homework alone, and wait. That experience didn't just teach independence, it taught something deeper. Actions have consequences. When parents finally came home, rules were direct. Step out of line and you paid for it immediately. Psychologists call this a high contingency environment, where behavior and outcomes are tightly linked. Your brain learns to predict consequences quickly. That's why so many Gen Xers naturally think several steps ahead, in ways that younger generations sometimes find baffling. They also grew up watching adults promise stability, and then deliver layoffs, divorces, and economic chaos. People worked hard for decades and were suddenly let go. Everyone said, "Follow the rules, work hard, you'll be fine." Then the rules changed. Again. And again. So Gen X built emotional armor. Psychologists might call it defensive pessimism. Gen X just calls it realism. They don't assume disaster is coming, but they quietly prepare for it. They hope for the best, while keeping one foot ready to step back. This mindset explains something else. Why Gen X rarely overshares online. They grew up in a world where mistakes stayed local. No viral clips, no permanent records. Just awkward moments that eventually faded. To them, broadcasting your life doesn't feel exciting. It feels risky. They learned early that the less strangers know about you, the safer you are. They also turned humor and irony into shields. Sarcasm, dry jokes, keeping things at arm's length. And that makes sense when you remember the Cold War. Duck and cover drills in schools. Teachers talking about nuclear war like it was just another rainy day. When adults act like the world might end, but insist you shouldn't panic, you learn to hold two opposing ideas at once, and you keep a little emotional distance, just in case. Despite everything, Gen X developed a distinctive relationship with work. They don't brag about it, they just do it. Paper routes at dawn, fast food jobs, bagging groceries, calculating change in their head when the register broke. These weren't resume builders, they were lessons in responsibility. They watched corporations restructure and discard loyal employees. So they didn't become loyal to companies, they became loyal to competence. They can't control layoffs, but they can make sure they're the most useful person in the room. Here's the paradox. Gen X is intensely independent and quietly collaborative. They won't ask for help. They've been figuring things out since childhood. But if you need help, they show up. No announcements, no applause, just action. Their relationship with authority is complicated. They respect skill, not titles. If you know what you're doing, they'll follow you. If you don't, they have zero patience. They grew up watching scandals, political failures, and institutional breakdowns. Then came the economic hits, the dot-com crash, the 2008 financial crisis. Many of them were blindsided, more than once. That's why so many Gen Xers maintain backup plans and side incomes. Not because they love hustling, but because they've learned nothing is permanent. There's a downside to all that resilience. Gen X tends to rely on themselves almost too much. When stressed, they're less likely to ask for support. Not because no one would help, but because asking feels like weakness. That self-reliance shaped how they learned. Before Google, information had weight. You went to libraries, flipped through card catalogs, tracked down
Whoa,
one
this
book
book is
that might hold the
amazing.
answer.
Look at these pictures.
That effort made knowledge stick. They learned to fix bikes, repair TVs, take things apart instead of calling someone else. It built a belief that with enough patience and grit, you could master the physical world. Now Gen X is raising children in a very different world. Constant supervision, smartphones, everything documented. They gave their
Hey,
kids
let's
the
build a
attention they
tower.
never had.
Yeah, a big one.
But sometimes they worry. Too protected, too visible, too dependent. Because in the Gen X worldview, being visible
look at
means
that.
being vulnerable.
Are you my shadow?
In many ways, Generation X might be the last group to truly understand boredom. To sit alone with your thoughts. To solve problems without Googling. They're not better than other generations, just different. Shaped by a moment in history when the old world was fading and the new one hadn't fully arrived. They're the bridge generation. And bridges don't get much attention. They just hold everything together, quietly, expecting nothing in return. And maybe that's the most Gen X thing of all. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more deep dives into psychology, culture, and history. And I'll see you in the next video.